On this podcast, we explore fantastical thinking, moral panics, urban legends, conspiracy theories, hoaxes, and crazes, examine the forces that shape our culture, and tell the stories that create the realities we share, and sometimes the realities we don't. I'm your ghost, Chelsey Weber-Smith, and this is American Hysteria.
1 Bloody Mary, 2 Bloody Mary, 3 Bloody Mary.
You compacted with the devil?
Never!
Okay. I'm just lighting a candle right now. All right, I just came into my bathroom. I'm home alone right now, and I'm about to try out the mirror game of Bloody Mary. It's been a long time since I've done this. Very, very, very long time. I did do it as a kid. But yeah, we're going to see what's different as an adult. One of the differences is I am currently having some wine to really help loosen up myself and the spirit world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this ritual. I'm going to stare at my own face in a mirror. I'm going to call up the mirror witch, and I'm going to see what happens and try to describe it to you. If you don't know the game of Bloody Mary, it's really simple. It's just make sure you go into a dark room, usually a bathroom, no light. Make sure you block out all the light, and then you chant. There are many different chants depending on where you live, what time period you lived in. But basically what you're doing is chanting the name of this being who is supposed to be living within the mirror. For me, her name's always been Bloody Mary. I think that that's common for people that grew up, especially in the 90s. So you just wait and you see if you see her. Some stories say that she just appears. Other stories say she reaches out and actually scratches your face. Other stories say she even shatters the mirror when she comes to seek her revenge on you for daring to call her up in the mirror. So those are the basics of Bloody Mary. And I'm going to give it a try right now. I have a candle going. It's pitch black in this room. I've blocked out all the light. And how about a little more wine for courage here? Here we go. Okay. All right, I have my candle. I'm going to hold it right up to my face. And I'm going to look at myself in the mirror now. And I'm going to say Bloody Mary, and I'll tell you what happens. Bloody Mary, 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 Bloody Mary. Okay, I think my face is starting to look a little different. It's starting to freak me out a little bit. The features of my face look so different in the mirror. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. The longer I look, the less like myself I look. That's why they say never to look at your own face when you take psychedelics in a mirror. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Not breaking eye contact with myself at all. And I look totally different than I've ever looked before. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Can't even see the whites of my eyes anymore. They're just black. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. I don't recognize this person at all. I've never seen this person before. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. This is so much scarier than I thought it was going to be. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Okay, now that I've been murdered by the Mirror Witch, let's get into it. For this episode, we are going to trace the history of the Bloody Mary ritual, starting with the strange divination games that Victorian-era girls used to play on Halloween. Then we'll meet some of the paranormal Marys said to haunt cemeteries across the Midwest and Northeast, and learn about the trashy ways that teenagers have long tried to conjure their ghosts. We'll also take a look at humanity's long, freaky history with the mirror itself, an object that since its creation has been intimately connected to the supernatural. We'll try to find out, together, why slumber parties full of girls from the mid-20th century into the present day have been calling upon a blood-soaked witch while watching an uncanny self stare back from the flickering mirror world.
She empty-bagged us!
Hear me out. Seems to me we gave her a choice. Trick or treat. Trick or treat isn't just some phrase you chant mindlessly like the Lord's Prayer. It's an oral contract.
You're right. We trick her. Trick her good.
Huh? I hope the next people don't give us anything so we can trick them too. Why give them a choice? That trick was sweeter than any treat we'll get tonight.
From the mid-1800s all the way until the mid-1900s, the holiday of Halloween was marred by increasingly destructive teen boy pranks that made the evening extremely dangerous for the rest of the population, something we cover in detail in our 2021 episode called Haunted Attractions. These jackassian troublemakers would tie strings across walkways to trip pedestrians, knock over occupied outhouses, coat church pews in molasses, and leave dummies on train tracks to scare conductors. But that was only the beginning. Eventually, they started setting fires and lighting off pipe bombs, throwing bricks through store windows, painting curse words on buildings, and even jumping people on the street who didn't give them the treats that they demanded. But while the lads were outside terrorizing their towns and cities on Halloween, the girls were huddled together in their slumber party covens, using witchy divination techniques to look into the future. Just like in the modern occult game of Bloody Mary, mirrors were one of the main tools used to conjure the supernatural. But instead of trying to invoke a frightening, bloody witch woman, the girls were trying to invoke something arguably even more terrifying. Images of their future husband, who, in all likelihood, was one of those little dickheads smearing red paint all over the elderly neighbor's house.
Look behind you. Look behind you.
At the turn of the 20th century, a staple of the Halloween season was the sending out of quaint postcards, which are best described as mildly spooky valentines, many of which depicted girls playing marriage-related divination games. One postcard I found shows a girl standing on a set of stairs, holding a candle and staring into a hand mirror, a young man's face reflected back above the words, "A joyous Halloween." In another, a girl holds a candle and stares into a large mirror on a wall, and a handsome young man is seen standing behind her reflection. The card reads, "By candle's light he may be seen at 12 o'clock on Halloween." A similar card shows the same mirror scene with another poem. "If at midnight with a pumpkin light you steal to your room unseen, in the mirror appears the face of your true lover on Halloween." Another depicts a girl holding a mirror and walking down the stairs backwards, one of the most popular of the ritual games, and includes this rhyme. "Let this design on you prevail, to try the trick it cannot fail. Back down the stairs with candle dim, and in the mirror you'll see him." That's honestly kind of terrifying. Though the rituals described by these postcards certainly seemed sweet and innocent, they had a darker edge as well. Sometimes the mirrors reflected back a frightening future instead of a handsome suitor. If in the mirror a girl saw a skull, the Grim Reaper, or a coffin, it meant she would certainly die before she ever married. These were far from the only ways that girls tried to peek into their own marital futures on Halloween. Sometimes they sat before the mirror, eating an apple while brushing their hair at the same time, which seems really hard. They might peel an apple and then throw the skin over their left shoulder, studying the shape of the peel to find the initials of their future paramour. Another game instructed a group of girls to name chestnuts after a boy they each had a crush on, and then sit them next to one another over a burning hearth. Then the girls read the behavior of each nut to get a peek into their future spouse's disposition. A hissing nut might be interpreted as a sign that he will be quick to anger. A nut catching on fire might mean that he will be a passionate man. Other times, a different chestnut would be marked by each girl, and whichever one popped first meant she would be the first to marry. And sometimes, if she was really lucky, she would see the face of her future love rising in the flames. Maybe the most intense ritual performed was the pouring of melted lead into bowls of water. Whatever shape the solid lead became could be read as the career of their future husband.
She must know how to cook, no food. She must know how to set her table attractively. She must know how to make her home comfortable and inviting. She must know how to make her comfortable attractively. She must know food attractively, home attractively, inviting attractively.
Another mirrorless divining ritual that promised to reveal said husband was known as the dumb supper. Though like any folk tradition, it has many variations, the instructions of the dumb supper were simple. Cook and do everything backwards. At midnight, your lover will come and take his place at the table. On Halloween night, either one girl or several girls would cook a dinner in total silence and without laughing, doing everything they possibly could backwards. They would walk backwards, follow the recipe backwards, stir in the opposite direction than usual, put out the dessert first, set the table with utensils on the opposite sides, put the glasses upside down, and turn all the chairs backwards. Sometimes the girls would even remove their clothes while sitting at the backwards table, waiting for a full-blown marital apparition to appear in the chair across from them. One girl recalled a story passed down to her about a successful supernatural dumb supper that had occurred in the 1840s. Quote, "My mother told me the first thing they saw was a soldier come in with a sword and sit in one chair. Then just a man that looked like a farmer came and sat in another chair. The third thing that came in was a coffin, and it floated right under one of the girls' chair. They all screamed. That broke the spell, and the rest didn't get to see what would happen at their chair. One girl did marry a farmer, and the other one that the soldier sat in her chair married a soldier, and the one that the coffin went under died before the next Halloween night." In addition to the hovering coffin, which I think is genuinely frightening, other deadly omens could also appear. Sometimes 2 ghostly men carrying a corpse, or other times a large white dog. Common tall tales told of dumb suppers sometimes involved a knife magically appearing on the plates of certain girls, who hid the mysterious objects away in their bedrooms. When they married years later, their husbands found the knives they believed had been lost years ago, and the women admitted to holding the dumb suppers in which they appeared. The men then screamed that the conjuring of their spirits had caused them to spend a night in hell that had haunted them ever since, and in their poetic rage, they killed their wives with the very knives that had once predicted their love. This dramatic, dumb supper-related legend was most likely a cautionary tale told by parents to keep their daughters from messing around with divination games that smacked of what else but witchcraft.
Make a spell on Joseph Baker, Tituba. Make him love me. Make Daniel Poole my husband. Bring me out of town.
I want Jacob Poole to love me forever.
Abby.
You compacted with the devil?
Never.
As you might imagine, the warnings of wary adults have long accompanied the secret supernatural sisterhood of girls and young women. One of the most popular and longest-lasting divination games was known as Venus Glass, in which an egg would be cracked, the yolk removed, and the whites dumped into a glass of warm water. Whatever form the whites took showed a symbol of what their future husband would do for work. As the Salem witch trials wound to a close in the late 1600s, anti-witchcraft activist John Hale wrote his thoughts about what kind of behavior had bewitched the young victims, girls aged 9 to 18.
"I fear some young persons, through a vain curiosity to know their future condition, have tampered with the devil's tools so far that thereby one door was opened to Satan to play those pranks. I knew one of the afflicted persons who did try with an egg and a glass to find her future husband's calling, till there came up a coffin, that is, a spectre in likeness of a coffin, and she was afterwards followed with diabolical molestation to her death, and so died a single person. A just warning to others to take heed of handling the devil's weapons, lest they get a wound thereby."
On those quaint Halloween postcards that appeared almost 300 years later, there were often silhouettes around the magic mirrors of pointy-hatted, broomstick-flying witches, perhaps a cute, tongue-in-cheek warning about the perceived dangers of messing around with the occult. More after this. And now, back to the show.
1 Bloody Mary, 2 Bloody Mary, 3 Bloody Mary, 4 Bloody Mary. You just close your eyes and count to 13 and Bloody Mary appears in the mirror.
Come on in.
Brenda?
No, thank you.
By the 1960s, the husband conjuring rituals had largely evaporated, replaced by the modern version in which girls call out to an evil, bloody witch woman instead. Ladies, that's what I call feminism. Now, as with any creepy undertaking, the Bloody Mary scare works best if there is some kind of lore lurking in the background of the ritual, a narrative to give it some extra weight. Who is this mysterious Mary? What is her backstory? Why is she bloody? What will she do to those who dare summon her? Some hypotheses say that the identity of Bloody Mary is none other than Mary Tudor, Queen of England through the first half of the 1500s and daughter of Henry VIII. She was known for burning 280 Protestant religious dissenters at the stake, which led to her gruesome nickname, Bloody Mary, because she had the blood of good Christians on her hands. Most folklorists, however, are not convinced that there is a meaningful connection between the Queen and the contemporary legend, other than the coincidental nickname. Others have made a connection to Resurrection Mary, a Chicago area ghost story about a girl killed in a hit and run whose ghost hitchhikes with the living back to her own grave. An early name for Bloody Mary, as recorded by folklorist Janet Langlois in the 1970s, was Mary Wales, who was said to have also died in a tragic hit and run, left with a bloody gash on her face. There are also a handful of localized ghost Marys out there beyond the mirror, buried or allegedly buried in cemeteries across the Northeast and Midwest. There is the legend of Mary Stockham, who is said to be entombed in a Coshocton County, Ohio graveyard. Her tale begins with her husband murdering their daughter and then being hanged for the crime. Angered by the act and resentful that she was forced to raise her 9 children alone, she began poisoning them one by one. Well, either that or they died from illnesses, and it was misinterpreted by the townsfolk. Regardless, she was accused of being a witch and hanged. But still, her remaining children continued to die, so they dug up her body, cut her head off, and proceeded to burn it outside the bounds of the cemetery. She is said to haunt the place to this very day, looking for her head, her neck a bloody stump. Then there is the resting place of one Mary Jane Terwilliger, known in lore as Mary Jane, located at the Loon Lake Cemetery in Jackson County, Minnesota. Mary Jane is said to have either been a real witch or falsely accused of being a witch in 1881, beheaded by an axe for her supposed supernatural crimes. To this day, her spirit is said to walk the hills of the graveyard, headless and bleeding, appearing to the young fools who come looking for her ghost.
As legend has it, I guess, women who were accused of witchcraft were then taken to the water tower and hanged within. And it's believed that their spirits still haunt the water tower today.
Many Wisconsinites have likely heard the occult legends that surround the town of Whitewater, tales of a network of 19th century witches that led to the area's nickname, the Second Salem. Covens were said to exist in the woods around the town, with tunnels built beneath the city where the witches could perform rituals and move around undetected. There is a so-called evil book locked away in the basement of the Anderson Library at the University of Whitewater, described as a kind of witch's tome that has made students go insane or even commit suicide just by looking upon its cursed pages. There is also a tall, ominous tower said to be ground zero for the witches' secret satanic seances. Most importantly, when traced on a map, the 3 graveyards in the town form an isosceles triangle, a shape also known as the Witch's Triangle. In one of the cemeteries, a small, unmarked mausoleum is said to house the remains of the most evil of these witches, Mary Worth, an axe murderess whose violent spirit still haunts the graveyard every Halloween.
We're looking for Mary Worth's.
I found it!
Mary! Is this it?
Found it.
Along with Mary Wales, Mary Worth just so happens to be one of the earliest names used when summoning the Mirror Witch, who would eventually become Bloody Mary, and the chant, "I believe in Mary Worth," was supposed to be repeated between 3 and 100 times, depending on who you asked. Another version of the Mary Worth story claimed that she was killed during the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts, accused of putting young girls under her spell, luring them to her house, and then murdering them to use their blood in demonic rituals. Some stories say she was innocent, others guilty, but regardless, after she was burned at the stake by the townspeople, she promised revenge on the living, leaving bloody scratches on those who dared to call out her name in front of a mirror. As you may suspect, dear discerning listeners, these stories of cemetery Marys are nothing but folklore. Witch hunts were over by the mid-1800s, and witches were never burned at the stake in the United States. But nonetheless, they speak to the stories we want to tell about the danger of witchy women, danger that lives on well beyond their deaths, only to appear again inside our haunted mirrors.
Slave in the magic mirror, come from the farthest space. Through wind and darkness I summon thee. Speak! Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
In cultures all across time and all across the world, mirrors have acted not just as vanity items, but as mystical magic windows to other dimensions that could reveal the secret wisdom of the gods and the dangerous tricks of demons and devils. By the 1600s, the English word catoptromancy came into popular use to describe this practice, but the impulse is as old as the mirror itself. 3,500 years ago in Mesoamerica, indigenous tribes used polished iron, obsidian, and pyrite to create reflective surfaces that, when used in rituals, could foretell the future and allow one to communicate with supernatural beings. The ancient Romans believed that mirrors could trap the souls of those gazing into them, and since they also believed that it took 7 years for the body to fully regenerate into a completely new form, it led to the superstition that breaking a mirror can cause 7 years of bad luck. The Romans who used mirrors to see into the future were called specularii, and it was believed that they were able to contact and seek guidance from the gods, but others had access to the mirror's power as well. At the Temple of Ceres, people would lower a mirror by a thread into a fountain until it touched the water, and then gaze into the glass, waiting to either see their future healthy face or a ghastly version, perhaps even a death mask. The sites of the ancient Greek and Roman oracles sometimes included a large mirror that reflected images back dimly, so that, quote, the actual images of the gods and the throne can be seen quite clearly. In China, in the 3rd century AD, different types of mirrors held different types of magical purposes. For all our sakes, I will not try to pronounce their names, but they translate to mirror that reveals demons, mirror that knows the future, and mirror that sees the spirits. Ancient Jewish folklore held that mirrors had to be covered at the time of a loved one's passing, lest the angel of death appear to the mourners, the deceased soul become trapped, or demons enter in through the thin glass between realms. During the Middle Ages in Europe, mystics known as scryers chanted and used dark mirrors to tell the future and to see otherworldly beings that regular people could not. Like in the case of Bloody Mary, children were considered the best of the scryers, and it was rumored that these seers sometimes went blind from staring too long at the mirrored surfaces. In response, a 1300s skeptic known as Bishop Baldock bemoaned that these scryers were nothing but tiny little hucksters. Quote,
"Some pretend to invoke spirits in fingernails and mirrors, in stones and rings, and pretend that these spirits give signs and responses."
Mirrors also became strongly associated with the sinful, monstrous feminine. In response to a popular Irish folk belief in the 5th century, a strange religious law appeared that promised excommunication for any Christian who believed that a child-killing serpent woman of pagan origin known as a lamina could be conjured into a mirror. Beginning in the 13th century, the biblical character of Eve was often depicted in statuary holding a mirror that reflected the image of the serpent who tempted her to go against God and convince Adam to do the same. The symbolism of the mirror became overtly associated with the sin of vanity, something presented by Christian religious authorities as a uniquely feminine problem. The thinking went that gazing at one's own image took the eyes away from God and led women to forsake the husband gaze that they should have been seeking after. In a 1372 text called The Book of the Knight of the Tower, Geoffrey de la Tour Landry gives advice to girls who spend too much time looking in the mirror and not enough time going to church. Quote,
"Will this lady never be done combing herself, staring at herself in the mirror? And as it pleased God to make an example of her, even as she stared into the mirror, she perceived the enemy, who bared his anus, so ugly and horrible that the woman lost her reason, as if possessed by the devil."
That's right. During the next century, the mirrors of allegedly vain young women became imbued not just with Satan's image, but with Satan's asshole's image. In a 1498 woodcut print by Albrecht Dürer titled The Devil and the Coquette, a woman is depicted combing her hair in a mirror with a horned devil she can't see standing behind her, butt cheeks spread, asshole fully out, the only thing reflected back in her mirror. In the Hell section of the Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch, a naked woman is seen gazing at herself in a mirror, which is stuck to the ass of a greenish demon, while another demon's arms wrap around her body. Now, if we go all the way back to 300 BC, we get to another uncomfortable topic of the Western world. Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote this strange sentence that would appear later in the collection called On Dreams. Quote,
"When menstruating women observe their reflection, the surface of the mirror becomes like a bloody cloud."
This was actually a popular folk superstition at the time, but the famously logical philosopher tried to put it in early empirical terms. The ancient Greeks developed natural science theories which claimed that a kind of invisible material could emanate from the eye, and that material could reach out and actually touch whatever was gazed upon. In the Christianized 13th century, early satanic panicker Thomas Aquinas also invoked the idea of the bloody mirror and the menstruating eyes that turned it red, connecting the phenomenon to a witchcraft pact with the devil. In the 14th century, it was also said that a woman's period infected her eyes, so that the venom contained in her glance could literally kill animals and babies. It was even recommended that young children wear pieces of mirror in their hair so that the dangerous gaze of a wicked menstruating woman would bounce back and hit her instead. When I found the ancient story about menstrual blood turning mirrors red, it, of course, reminded me of our urban legend today, and it fit in pretty perfectly with one of the most interesting takes on the meaning behind the Bloody Mary ritual. In 1998, the incredible folklorist Alan Dundas presented his theory that the mirror game, most often played by preteen girls, could be a kind of subconscious expression of anxiety around the horrors of puberty. When you step back and consider the elements of the ritual, this concept does make a lot of sense. The bathroom, the blood, the specter of an aged woman replacing the image of the girl's own face, and the need to do it all in private, since menstruation is still a totally taboo topic in our culture. Rites of passage ceremonies around puberty are present in cultures all across time and all over the world, so much so that they seem almost to be a part of the human condition itself. So when these traditions are not created and passed on consciously through community traditions, well, maybe they find a way to materialize from our collective unconscious. Of course, it's not as if girls go into the bathroom thinking, oh, I'll be starting my period soon, better call up that fucking mirror witch. It's more that these small tests of courage, sometimes egged on by the in-group peer pressure of the slumber party atmosphere, are ways to face and vanquish what is scary about growing up, while trying to bond with a community going through the same thing. In the case of this mirror game, the rite of passage gets tinged a little red because for girls, their growing up is literally soaked in blood.
Holy shit, you are covered in blood! Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Pardon me, I'm Nathan's father, Steve.
Hi.
All right, what's going on here?
Nathan's Data's on her period for the first time, and she's bleeding everywhere.
Oh, disgusting. I mean, congratulations, young lady.
Up until recently, menstruation was often referred to as the curse, a carryover from medieval Europe, where Christian theology presented periods as Eve's eternal punishment for her original sin in the Garden of Eden, and thus the punishment of all women descendants who came after her. Over the last 3,000 years or so, menstruation in what would become Western culture has been treated as a wicked process that required temporary and total separation from the rest of the community. During the 1st century AD, the popular Roman author Pliny the Elder wrote that the touch of a menstruating woman could cause, quote,
monstrous effects.
It could cause crops to wither. It could cause mares to miscarry. It could blunt a razor's edge. It could kill bees. It could spoil wine and cause any dog who ate the blood to become deranged and its bite to become deadly. Though this all sounds completely absurd to us now, up until the mid-1900s, some of these things were actually being addressed with scientific research. In 1919, Hungarian-American scientist Bela Schick was delivered a vase of roses by his maid, but by the next morning, the flowers had already wilted and died. He asked the maid, in what I imagine was a big old yucko moment for her, whether she was currently on her period. She admitted that she was, which inspired in Schick an idea for a series of experiments where he had different maids, some on their periods and some not, touch flowers to see if women indeed secreted some toxic substance through their pores that he called menotoxins. Soon, other researchers were expanding on the menotoxin hypothesis, actually injecting menstrual blood into lab rats, claiming that the substance caused significant depression and disorientation as the animals tried to navigate mazes. In some cases, it caused leg paresis and even death, which led some scientists to believe that yes, period blood could be a deadly substance. It wasn't until decades later in the 1950s that other scientists debunked this work, proving that the rats had died because of bacterial infections from, the unsterile process of being injected with random period blood. Just a decade later, our modern Bloody Mary mirror game had circulated all over the country, and a blood-covered monster witch was there, ready to reach her clawed hand through the mirror and make the girls bleed. More after this. And now, back to the show. If we return now to our IRL cemetery Marys, we can look at the rituals that were used to summon the ghosts of these maligned women, most of whom were said to have been killed for practicing witchcraft. When young people head out to a haunted site to participate in an urban legend themselves, we in the business call this legend tripping. And in this case, like the process of calling Bloody Mary in the mirror, there are certain words that need to be chanted to conjure a witch ghost, or a certain number of times the conjurer must walk around her grave. One of the most well-known examples of these legend trip ritual traditions comes from North Vernon, Indiana, where a marker actually known as Bloody Mary's grave is said to be located. This Mary is said to have died by hanging after being accused of witchcraft, and the lore says that her ghost will scratch or cut those who call her forth, either directly in spectral form or indirectly later on during some kind of accident. In fact, this particular Mary has extra layers of meta lore. Several teens are said to have died in car accidents on the way home from their hubris-hued legend trip. Perhaps we can see why the ghost of Bloody Mary might want to seek a little revenge. The rituals have long included stomping and spitting on her grave, even pissing on her grave, taunting her spirit to appear and face off with a gaggle of smug teenage punks. One first-person account of the Indiana Bloody Mary legend trip, collected in the mid-1970s by folklorist Linda McCoy Ray, went like this.
Whenever anybody goes down there, if they get out of their car and walk around her grave and start yelling at her and cussing at her, when they get back in their cars, they'll have blood somewhere on their bodies. The vines are supposed to grow up around your ankles and hold you there until Bloody Mary can get out of her grave and get you.
When asked what cuss words were usually used, another of Linda's sources said,
"God damn you, Bloody Mary."
Or,
"Fuck you, Bloody Mary. Come on out."
And it's not just Indiana's Bloody Mary that deals with this delinquent disrespect. Sometimes the legend trippers go as far as vandalizing the headstones of these cemetery Marys, even throwing them into local rivers and ponds. Here's a clip of a folklore student in the 1970s discussing the issue as it pertained to the legend of Mary Stockham.
These legends have made people curious about the cemetery, and as a result, it has become a popular meeting place. However, some people cause problems at the cemetery, which have brought up legal questions. In this tape of the graveyard, you can see what vandals have done to these monuments. It is our contention this type of destruction is not warranted at a cemetery and should be stopped.
After Mary Jane's headstone was found ripped up and thrown on a nearby lawn more than once, it was moved to the Jackson County Historical Society for safekeeping. In Richland County, Ohio, another witch named Mary Jane is said to have been burned at the stake under a tree at a graveyard at the end of a long rural road. After her tale spread in the 60s and 70s, teenagers used the spot as a spooky place to party, to taunt the witch for fun, and to desecrate the area of her alleged grave. As recently as 2015, teenage vandals on a legend trip to see Mary Jane actually cut down the tree that marked her resting place, damaging a bunch of grave markers in the process. Though girls are, of course, sometimes present during these kinds of external legend trips, for the boys, folklorists see their IRL Bloody Mary grave-stomping witch-mocking ritual as another rite of passage, a chance to perform masculine bravery for their boys, and sometimes for the girls, who they hope might cuddle up close to them after getting sufficiently creeped out. It makes sense that those socialized as boys feel more entitled to experience folklore in an outward exploration, while those socialized as girls are culturally encouraged to stay inside the home, finding ways to explore the great unknown far more privately and far more quietly. Of course, gender is a construct. I was both the seance sorceress of my girl sleepovers and the loudmouthed leader of my boy legend trips, hoping my bravery might get me a little kiss from a girl later on. But for what we're talking about now, I am speaking more generally, because the differences of these internal and external legend trips certainly mirror the gender differences of Halloween celebrations in the 1800s and 1900s. While the boys went out whooping and hollering and creating a wake of gleeful destruction in their path, the girls stayed in, practicing watered-down witchcraft that was allowed simply because it was done in service of a future marriage. Historically, boys and young men have been all but encouraged to trample the outside world underfoot, twist it into shapes that respect their power, and conquer it without society calling them witches or bitches. Historically, many girls and young women who have not tightly conformed to society's demands have been maligned as witches. It is essentially the birthright of women to be seen, in one way or another, as inherently monstrous. And it seems that even now, certain boys and men are still hunting the ghosts of the witches who held mysterious strength, ready to disrespect and desecrate them, to piss on their potentially too powerful graves. Right as the witchy Bloody Mary game was transforming out of the practice of husband divination, the second wave feminism of the 60s and 70s was changing American culture in massive ways, and the new generation of girls no longer wanted to spend their Halloweens dreaming about their fixed futures. Instead, they were becoming ready to conjure their own. During the rise of the Satanic Panic and the panic around young people and the occult, which began in the late 1960s, popular slumber party games like Bloody Mary, Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, group seances, and the Ouija board took on a sinister quality in the eyes of parents and moral guardians, a feeling that the so-called witchcraft that had been practiced by European girls in the United States since the 1600s was back with a bloody vengeance. Recalling those dumb supper rituals girls once used to reveal the spirits of their future husbands, creating a backward dinner may not seem at first to correlate as directly to Bloody Mary as the mirror-based divining methods. But to me, it feels important to note that the backwardness of the ritual, the flipping of the required feminine custom of making dinner, is an inversion that is similar to gazing into a looking glass. In one of our main sources, Lucifer Rising, the Occult in Folklore and Popular Culture, folklorist and patron saint of our show, Bill Ellis, writes, quote, "The prevalence of mirrors in rituals intended to reveal the participant's future husband suggests a world like ours, but inverted in important ways to allow women significant power in the marriage game." Girls, of course, have historically had much less control over their futures. If they could learn about their husband ahead of time, they could more easily see what their futures would be, the way that boys were able to. Bill Ellis goes on to connect these backward rituals to the morally panicked tales of black masses allegedly practiced by American witches and Satanists, in which the Lord's Prayer is spoken backwards. Medieval European folklore also held that witches renewed their alliance to the devil every year by walking backwards around a church. There is an immense power in rituals of inversion, in creating anti-worlds where power structures are reversed and taken over by the summoner. Folklorists have written about how the Bloody Mary ritual takes cultural power back by allowing girls control over the mistreated woman she fears she may become, whether it be through violence, oppression, or women's greatest sin of aging, as they see an older, monstrous woman in the mirror just as they reach puberty. They can look upon the possible frightening futures, conjure them, and then banish them as soon as they decide to turn on the lights. All my life, mirrors have freaked me out. There is something haunting about one's own reflection. It's you, but it's not you. It's a backward you in a backward room, a place that is both known and unknown, a place you are in and are not in. A place where a backward you might be living a backward life, so close to your own, but not. It's a truly mystifying object, one that has mystified humans for millennia, one that has always been associated with magic, even before it was associated with the human reflection. This feeling appears to be built into us. Young children actually show signs of self-recognition in photographs much earlier than they are able to recognize themselves in the mirror, because really, a mirror's reflection is an uncanny valley of the self. If we look at the Bloody Mary ritual scientifically, there have been very interesting studies about why looking into a dark mirror can bring out the horrifying in your own face. Dubbed the strange face in the mirror illusion, Italian psychologist Giovanni B. Caputo conducted experiments in 2010 using a dark room, a mirror, and 50 participants. He had them stare at their own reflections for around 10 minutes and then asked them to describe what they saw. The results showed that 66% of people saw huge deformations of their own face, and 48% saw fantastical and monstrous beings. The study also notes, quote, "The participants reported that apparition of new faces in the mirror caused sensations of otherness when the new face appeared to be that of another unknown person or strange other looking at him or her from within or beyond the mirror." Giovanni Caputo wrote a second article with a Jungian interpretation of the mirror illusions that occur in low light, which he notes is caused by a combination of mysterious psychological and evolutionary processes. Since most of the participants in the previous experiment experienced an othering of the self, Caputo believes it became possible for them to project unconscious, personalized images onto this other, a process which would not be possible if the person was totally identified with their normal reflection in regular light. Caputo pointed out that many of these images that appear to participants follow along the lines of psychologist Carl Jung's archetypes, universal images and patterns that appear in the stories, myths, art, and dreams of cultures all over the world and for time immemorial. One part of these shared archetypes includes the shadow, the unexplored dark part of our psyche, the hardest part for us to face, something that can appear to us as a monster, a skull, a cadaver, or a witch. For Caputo, looking at facial changes in a dim mirror may be a way for the viewer to integrate their shadow self into their conscious self. To Carl Jung, the witch archetype represented unacknowledged desires, instincts, and fears that are repressed because they do not fit in with the dominant culture, but also represented traits of independence, personal expression, outsider wisdom, and a self-directed life beyond the demands of society. Witch hunts in Europe and the US vilified those who held the traits of the witch archetype, sentenced them to death, and made them into the ultimate form of evil. Maybe beyond just invoking the image of their potentially fearful futures, calling up the archetype of the bloody witch allows girls to face the monsters they have been told they are for centuries. Maybe it allows them to stare their shadow selves in the face, to harness their unmanifested power, to bring the ancient mirror beings out of the anti-world and into their own. This was American Hysteria. You're listening to a cover of Season of the Witch by Magpie Cinema Club. Click the link in our episode notes to get more of their music. If you want to support our show, help make sure we can continue making it, and we can use all the help we can get, go to patreon.com/American Hysteria or subscribe on Apple Plus. You'll get ad-free episodes as well as bonus content, like the hour-long stream of consciousness I just posted about all my ghost experiences, or the entire catalog of Hysteria Home Companion, the podcast that I do with our producer Miranda Miranda, where we tell you stories related to the topics that we cover, stories we know that you'll love, and a whole behind-the-scenes look at the show and our personal lives. That's patreon.com/American Hysteria or subscribe on Apple Plus. If you go to AmericanHysteria.com, you can pick up some of our merch. 100% of the profits go to the Samir Project, a Palestinian-led mutual aid group that are on the ground in Gaza providing food and supplies to displaced families. You can also leave us a message on the Urban Legends hotline about a tale that you remember from growing up or even one you've heard recently, and we might do an entire investigation about it. American Hysteria is written, produced, and hosted by me, Chelsey Weber-Smith. Our producer and editor is Miranda Zickler. Our associate producer and sound designer is Riley Swedelius-Smith, and our voice actor is Will Rogers. Thanks, as always, for listening. And if you say my name 3 times, Chelsey Weber-Smith, Chelsey Weber-Smith, Chelsey Weber-Smith, I'll show up in your mirror and tell you how pretty you look today. Have a great week and happy Halloween.